right, happy Thursday, everyone. We're here for another episode of Successfully Chaotic, and I have two special guests here with me today. We decided to come live just so we can let you all see our awesome faces that we just have here for you today. But I'm super excited about speaking with Anthony, and then actually, Wise, you've been on my show before, so I'm sure some of the people remember you being on.
Yes, I have.
But yes, so you're a repeater here, so we're happy to have you back. So I guess I'm going to just jump in, Anthony, and you have written a book, which I'm going to let you kind of introduce a little bit about the book and maybe briefly just kind of, I mean, don't give any like spoilers or anything, but give us just a little bit of an idea about what it's about.
Well, the title of the book is The Plush Life, and plush is like emphasize that like s- it represents peace, love, unity, success, and happiness. So, the subtitle is From Prison to Peace. So, a lot of people think I'm talking about like the actual prison, but it's more of just the prison of your environment. Like things that you grow up, everybody has a time in life where they grow up with whatever the environment gives you, and you got to figure it out. And then as you realize certain things is lies and the truths, and as you get older and stuff like that, then you just come to. So it was more of a self help for me. I would consider it. Like people ask me philosophy if I had to give it a real fancy title, but it was just it's just sharing that like there's different routes. Sometimes you just gotta absorb blame. You gotta get rid of just blaming people. Like
Absolutely.
once you know better, then can you really blame somebody for your decision? Like I just as a young child, I just learned that blaming gets nobody nowhere.
Yeah.
It's a lot of weight that was holding me back as a growing up.
Oh, I think that a lot of people can probably really recognize what you're saying because I think you're completely right. And until you just said that, I thought you were talking about an actual prison too. So I'm glad that you mentioned that because I think that we all, no matter, kind of how you grew up, where you grew up, we all on some level have experienced a prison of our mind from our environment. And, I think that there's a lot of us that if we're not careful, we still find ourselves there because, there's only one thing that we control in our own lives, and that's how we react to something. So, I think that if we know that, that can be super empowering because at that point, nothing can really control us if we are controlling how we react to any situation, whether good or bad. So I love that. What inspired you to write that book?
Being in prison.
Can you elaborate on that? I
uh,
mean,
right before I went to prison, things was going good. I did stop selling. I like did stop my street life stuff. I wasn't really active in the streets,
hmm
but I still had friends that I still communicated with. So as I started getting my little painting beside company going and everything, got my oldest son back into my life, and then as soon as you try to go good, you get yanked back. And when I went to prison, that's all I could think about was just wow, like the first time that I actually was not doing nothing, I still had to be held accountable for something that I did that was recorded. So it was like, wow, I could blame this person, I could blame that person who told on me, who like I could have went through that whole cycle, which I did for like a brief minute. Got my anger, when I see this person, and then it was just like that's the
yeah,
excuse you're gonna tell your son. Like that's what you're gonna tell your son. Like, hey, he did this. I'm in here because he did this. And it was just at that point where I just started reflecting on like a lot of choices I made as a kid. So it's really a lot of not being like everybody could say, oh, I came from a poor family, but I had a family,
Mhm.
and they was a supportive family. So it's not that you don't, even though you're poor, you don't feel as poor as somebody that has just nobody but their mother, father, and no support.
Mhm.
So I just started reflecting on things like how I could have been a better person, or if I'd have chose this, if I'd have said no to this, I might have not looked cool at that point, but I might have been able to do this. So it was a lot of, it was like more before this mental health thing became so, I actually think that I just was dealing with some mental things that I just had to like address and be honest with. I was able to be honest, so that was why I could put it out as a book. And it all started as like a, I realized my son wasn't getting my letters, and he was young, and I knew that I didn't believe that the letters was even being read to him as a child. So it was like a diary, like me writing to my son the blueprint on how to be a better person, how not to blame. So it was more, that's how it all started. It was like, if I'm facing all this time and I actually have to do all this time, what do I want him to know? Not just what the streets say about me. Who am I? Like, who's your father? When somebody say, who's your father, you should be able to say more than, oh, he was the guy in the street. Like, so it was just about what I thought people, how I wanted people to view me, even though I made a lot of bad choices. I chose the wrong side of the street a lot of times.
And well, and I think a lot of people have, whether it was something that ended up putting them in prison or something that ended up, leading to a divorce or something that, like there's so
Yeah.
many things that goes on. And I know you mentioned, grew up in a poor family. I grew up in a super poor family. And I'm talking like sometimes hunt for our food poor, like that poor. So, I remember thinking about that as a younger child on how many things that I didn't have. I didn't have this. I couldn't do this. I looked at it all as negatives. But since I've become older, a lot of those things I realized in some ways were positives. Now I made lots of bad choices in my life too. Don't even get me started. But like during those bad choices, a lot of those were painful, right? And I was like, oh crap, that hurts. So you learn, if you allow yourself, you learn from that. I think that is so important to kind of recognize and realize, because making a mistake is just kind of part of the human experience. It really is. But where we really kind of pick our path to learn and grow from that and make better choices, and not only make better choices, but not hide from our bad choices, right? Because, and that's one thing I've even tried to do with my own kids is, I let them know the bad choices I made, and instead of hiding it, like a lot of parents tend to do. And the reason that I do that is because they're more likely to learn from it if I say, hey, this is what happened. This really sucked. This is why I'm saying that, not because I'm just saying it, right?
Yeah, I tend to, I think it's just tough love. I think it's just accepting, being able to accept tough love.
Yeah.
And then it still goes to like knowing, I know who I could turn to. That at one point I didn't know. I didn't believe I could turn to anybody. I know there's somebody I can reach out to talk to about this. I know there's somebody, whether I choose to and like take that step, that's where the choice comes, where you own your own decision. Like that's when you can't blame nobody. That's the choice that you have now. You know everything. Yeah, all of us came up somehow, but the choice you made to get where you are, the choice I made and Wize made, because we lived together for so long, to get to where we are, those are still choices that you have to accept the past to move, to even get to this point to where you even feel comfortable talking to people about your personal life.
Absolutely. Well, what was that moment that made you realize that you wanted to talk about your personal life? Because for a lot of people, that's terrifying, right? The idea that they have to talk about something, especially something that's not good. Like it's real easy to talk about something good you did, right? But something that was like, yeah, this wasn't so great. Like, what made you decide that you needed to do that?
There was a lot of losses that occurred while I was in prison. A lot, a lot. Like every time, like I think I could count on one hand, and that's me not really thinking hard. How many losses I this person passed, so it was just like yeah, this who am I? Who am I? Like the person that always been a creator but scared to create because I'm worried about what everybody else is thinking about, that the ideas I come up with to create. I'm letting other people's opinions and naysayers and lack of support people they was weighing in on me being the person I am today. It's just, yeah, you just learn yourself. It's just nice to reflect. I think I'm a big advocate now of therapy. I think I would, you have to, it has to be the right person. You might not find the right person, but I mean, you have to play around until you find somebody you feel you could really be honest with and
Yeah.
know that this is where it stays. And that is nice. Like I ain't gonna lie, I will not kid you. Not that was probably like the best in and out experience because I dealt with the counselor in prison and then out of prison, and it was just good to actually just be able to just like be honest when they ask a question and not try to like, what am I hiding?
Yeah.
Like, what are you hiding? And that it just not wanting to be forgotten. I think it was like you don't want to forget. I don't want never going to forget my father, and I didn't want my kids or my kid at the time to forget his father. Well, so it was just a lot of really. That was like my rock bottom, the real one, not the ones
Yeah.
that everybody cry about. A real rock bottom that actually wakes you up and make you look at all your decisions and who you really hurt and how many people you affect, and even with your bad decisions. So it was a lot, and I'm older.
That definitely helps. We tend to get wiser as we get older, and we look back, we're like, oh, yeah, I did this to myself. This sucked. So, I mean, and you mentioned therapy, and I'm glad you brought that up. Because for a lot of people, if you didn't grow up in the world where you talked about your problems, that could be so uncomfortable to trust somebody to be able to talk about everything with and not hold back, like you mentioned. But I feel like that it seems to be harder for a lot of men to step out. I'm not a man, obviously. I'm a woman, so I can't stay from my own perspective. But I can tell you from my husband's standpoint. My husband had to hit rock bottom and then some before he stepped out and got help with his PTSD because he was military. It took a lot, and I've seen that with other men in my life that it seems to be so hard for men to step out and admit that they need to talk to somebody because they're afraid maybe of looking weak. I don't really know because, like I said, I'm coming from just experiencing other. Can you maybe share a little bit about why you felt it took you so long to be able to talk to somebody?
I could definitely say it's like back in the days when people used to ride the yellow bus and everybody was scared to get on the yellow bus because everybody thought they would judge you because you was the one on the yellow bus. So going at from coming up in a environment where therapy and talking to people is not every like that's not even something promoted, advertised, anything. To just talk to somebody, there's somebody you could go and talk to, and be completely honest. It's like a verbal diary, and it takes a lot. It took me a lot because at first I thought everything was textbook. My prison experiences led me believe that these people you talk to and that they want you to confide in them are just textbook people that don't even understand what you're going through. And then that out in the free world, once you outside, now when I go and I'm encounter somebody that's in that field, it's a different. You could just know if you could confide in a person, and it's all. And then not. Well, gave up on caring what people think. So, but for most men, it's just a perception. And then they make you pay for it. So a lot of people ain't
Yeah.
gonna pay to talk. And that's what I wish they would just that therapy. I believe everybody needs it. Like anybody in
Oh, I
America,
agree.
anybody born in this country, raised in this country, needs a little therapy. Somebody could. It should be like really free, because especially with the way things are, like all the violence and everything. Like everybody needs somebody they could just, even if it's just taking the people and taking them to a gun range and let them talk to you while they shoot the gun in the
Yeah.
gun range. Like there has to be some more cries for like therapy as much as everything else they cry for.
No, I would agree with you. And I mean, I think that the more people that step up and say, hey, I go to therapy and this has been the best thing for me, I feel like that opens it up to where other people feel more comfortable and confident, to be able to do the same thing. And, I think it's great that, you have written this book and you're talking about a lot of your experiences, even from the level of going, I love therapy. I needed to go to therapy. I've gone to therapy. It's helped me so much because you never know who's listening and watching and saying, hey, he's grown up in an environment like I have. He's made some of the mistakes that I have, and he therapy helped him. So maybe it'll help me, type of thing. I love to hear that because I do think even though there's lots of people that have you know I guess concerns with going to therapy, it does seem to be a lot more men tend to have you know I guess that hold back of like, well, I don't want to, seem weak. So I think the more men that are stepping up saying, well, I go, better. And I can tell you from a female standpoint, I have never looked at a man that goes to therapy and be like, well, you are weak. That is not what happens. That to me, that's a stronger man, right? So I mean, I think that's some things that need to be brought up and, talked about. And I'm so glad that you're doing that. It's amazing. I do want to ask also during this process, I guess, of realizing that you needed to kind of change your mindset, realizing that you wanted to leave this different legacy for your son, for yourself, for your family, you know and deciding to write this book. What's been something during this process that's maybe surprised you the most?
How much people don't believe it. Like how I think that surprises me the most. Because I speak how I speak now, and I think it's key to speak and back your words up. So I speak this change every day. Anybody who knows me know I'm talking about acquiring some land, ownership. Like anybody who knows me, that's all we that's all we talk about. And I think it's not cool. I think people just don't think it's cool to try
Yeah.
that and put really like sacrifice holidays, sacrifice clothes shopping, sacrifice anything that I really would love to do that I haven't done since COVID started. Like sacrifice, like really be on my knuckles and knees trying to figure stuff out. And when people see me, they see me on a podcast, so they think this is like I'm good. I'm dressed nice. My house, I got a nice background. I'm good. There's no, oh, he's full of it. And then, and you don't, and there's nothing to show nobody. So I think it's just disbelief from people but I got used to that therapy, that I don't have no expectations from nobody. That's why I used to tell why I'm not doing this for the numbers. I'm not doing this for the views or the likes. So I don't have to get out of character. I don't have to accept nothing that I don't want to accept. This is my therapy because I don't have a therapist. Is very expensive. So this is my therapy now. And Wise always clarifies that when I start yelling to people, and people be like, "What's wrong with us?" Like, nah, this is my therapy, and this is what and I ain't have to yell at my therapist, but the stories I could tell her, I can't say on the podcast.
Absolutely.
So I just go hard on. I think mistakes are way. Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, we're not doing our show right now, so you don't have to like. There's no reason for you to read it.
Well, it's okay that
That's fine.
they
He's
know
used
I
to it.
read it
That's all right.
too.
It makes it
They
easier
know
on
I
me.
read it.
That's fine.
Yeah, they know I read it. I'm not
But,
gonna mess up
you know,
nobody's name.
now you know what it
You
is
know,
though. Being, especially in the black and brown communities, especially when we were growing up, we was born in the 70s, raised in the 80s and 90s, and so we were always taught men don't cry. We were always taught men don't show their emotions. But we've in a way we were blessed because we were raised by women. We had our we had my brothers and his father and uncles and all that, but for the most part we were raised by my mom and my sister, and so we were kind of already in that mode of we knew about sharing emotions and being open and all that. But again, the society itself, it was like you're a man, you don't cry, you don't show your emotions, you don't show that you care about whatever. You have to be strong. And for us now to be able to sh- to to show that yes, we've gone to therapy, sought the help that we needed, because everyone goes through situations and in life. And like with me, I was widowed at 31, and so for many years I was self-destructive. And to be able to go out and seek the help that I did seek, it just, and to be able to speak on it, it just allows other men, at least closer to me and my age, to be like, wow, they went and they sought the help that they needed. It's okay. It's nothing wrong with you going out and seeking help.
Absolutely.
And
Well, and I think
I shock people all the time because I'm hood. So when they see me and then I start talking, they be like, you don't fit the description of somebody that thinks like that.
well, and I think I mean, I
Ah,
think that's key though. I was getting ready to say like about stereotypes. I think, you know, there's so many stereotypes on how a man should act, and I think we accidentally do that even to children, right? I don't think anybody sets out to mess a kid up by saying things, but where there's these stereotypes that boys are tough and they go out and do this, that, and the other, and girls are emotional, and really humans are emotional, right? Humans are emotional beings, and these ideas that we come up with, these sayings like man up, act like a man, and all those kind of things. What the heck does that even mean? Because we should all be able to be free to show emotions when we feel emotions, right? And I think the idea that some people feel that they have to hold those emotions in, I think that could be the most destructive thing that there can be, because that causes so many downfall spiral effects. If we don't actually recognize and feel the emotions that we're feeling, I think that can be one of the most dangerous things. Even with I love being optimistic, and I love like happiness, and I love all that stuff, right? But I think there's a side of it also that says, if you don't recognize that today sucks, right? Today I don't feel happy, I don't feel positive, today just blows. If you don't recognize and own up to those feelings, how can you really be positive and optimistic? I mean, you might be able to fake it, but you're not going to really feel it unless you can recognize that there is the yin and the yang, right? There is the days that no matter how positive and an optimistic person you are, that are just going to be so hard. And you have to be able to say that without feeling like somebody's judging you for it. And I think that, and that's the reason I even brought up men and therapy and stuff. I've seen that just in society as a whole. And likewise, you mentioned, I've also heard people specify that it's even harder stereotypically with men in the black and brown community, that there's almost more of a stigma in that community to go to therapy than there is in other communities. And I think that books like this and you all speaking about these things, I think is amazing, because it's letting other people know that yes, some people may feel like that, but not everybody feels like that. And I think it's so important.
yeah.
So, Wise, I know we've not asked you any questions, but
But well, because we're really here. I'm here to support
I
him,
know I just didn't want you to
and
feel left out. So,
oh no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Is you know what it is? It's because he's been my number one supporter, my number one fan, and so I just do the same for him. It's like he's my nephew. Yes, that's my brother's son, but we were raised more like brothers. Saying he was raised by my mom, and we lived for, like you said, we lived together for many years, and so since we're so close in age, he's more my brother than anything else. And so if like he knows like anytime I have idea and I shoot it to him, he's like, all right, let's do it. And so when he was like, yo, I want to publish, he already had released a book, and he was like, yo, I got this other book I want to release. well, let's do it. And so I was like, all right, let's do this. We got a ghostwriter. She helped us really organize the book. And so
Yeah, because the book was way thicker than that.
yeah,
Way.
so she really helped us really to really
She
make
took out a lot of people's names.
That's probably a good idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
really good. But
Yeah,
no,
I was very honest. I was
You're like, and
reflecting.
on September the 13th. Yeah, I
Oh
get it.
man.
but to be able, like I said, but to be able to support him in any way that I can, it's and you know what it is. It's we were brought up like it's family. It's always family. We always take care of family, and that's just how we were raised. It didn't matter what that person did to you. They're always family, and you always have their back.
Well,
And most of them, yes, most of them.
It's not lied to the people. It's not. That's not.
For the most part, most of
Well,
them.
there's always
Yeah.
outside. Yeah,
There's
for
a
the most
few,
part,
there's
You
a
know
few.
what? Let me correct it. My thing is family. People put now. You got to realize there's family and there's relatives. So you can't. So as long as you don't, my relatives is my relatives, and most relatives is the ones that talk behind your back or try to outdo you for no reason, think they're in the fashion. Like those are relatives. Family don't do that, and that's just the way I look at things now. So I'm wrong. He's right. Family.
Well, I mean,
You fall in the family
I think you're
category.
both right. I mean, I think you're both right on that, and I like that you pointed that out because, there are definitely situations that are very toxic that, can be a relative or a family member or, whatnot. But I think the way that you're defining it on family and relatives, I think kind of paints a bigger picture. I know, Wise, you mentioned that, you're his number one fan and he's your number one fan. And I love that. And I love that you mentioned the idea of support. And I don't care which one of you or both of you can answer this, but how important do you think like a support system is to someone, not only someone that is, trying to do something like write a book or whatever, but also somebody who's trying to come out of that prison mindset, whether it's an actual prison or it's just the prison mindset. How important do you think having a good support system is?
I think it's like crucial. I think it's really crucial that you have a support system. I think it's crucial that people that like to say they support show support better. Like I think that this world, look at what's going on. The world is so like it's open for all creators, anybody to create. Why not empower somebody else to create something that's not even in your lane? Just be a part of the creation. Like enjoy watching somebody come up and just supporting them. And I think a lot of as a young child, you don't once you start giving up and people supporting you, really don't look at your actions fear to always go in a negative. You lose more of your morals because now you realize, oh, they don't care anyway, so I'm gonna just do wild out or I'm gonna do this or I choose this. So and knowing that you support it feels great. Like even if it's a little people, I just want people to understand that it don't gotta be the the number doesn't matter as long as you can look at your hand and say yes. At least have a handful of good supporters, even if it's and that's who you talk to. Most of us tell our problems to the person that we be around the most. Now you just gotta accept the person giving you some harsh criticism and the person being willing to give that hard criticism. But we always talk about our problems. It's that baffles me that people are scared of therapy because we all at a bar when you drunk, when you
Oh, I
cheated.
used to bartend. I can tell you that.
When a guy is cheating with a woman, he tells this stranger everything about his wife. Like why? Because that's his therapy. He just ain't getting nothing back. He just feels happy telling. We always talk. As men is just puzzled, confused people.
No, I think humans are. I don't even think it's only
But
men.
men are
But
pretty
it's just,
confused because we make it confused though. We make it confused because we tell our life to somebody all the time.
yeah.
But we won't talk to somebody that will ask us the right questions to make us think about what we just said that we thought was a-okay. So, but support, it started with support. It was just me and Wise at the beginning. It was just me and him.
Yeah.
And that was
And I
it.
think that's enough, though, honestly. Like, I mean, I think, not that having more of a support system isn't amazing, but honestly, and I've said this before, like, if you have just one person who thinks that you can do anything, that can inspire somebody to do everything. Just having one person that thinks you're capable of anything and
Yes.
thinks that you do amazing things, just one person that creates a momentum. And like you mentioned, that's what's sad a lot of times about, a lot of kids, is that sometimes they feel like, they're not valued, right? And I think as parents it can be hard, because as a parent, and I have children, I have 7 children, so I feel like I could say this like quite well, that you can be so caught up in trying to make sure that you're giving your children the things you're supposed to, quote unquote, as a parent, and you're putting the rules out there and you're making these things happen, right? And putting food on the table and getting them to practice, making sure they're doing their homework, that if you're not careful, you can forget that the most important thing that you can do is to make them feel like there's anything that they do, that you think they're the best at, whatever it is. And I mean, you can fill in the blank on what that is, but and I don't think most parents mean to leave that out of the parenting experience. I think we accidentally do that sometimes because we're so focused on what we have to do as a parent, right? It can be super stressful that if we're not careful, we can miss out on the most important thing, which is that just making them feel like they're the best at something.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And as far as support is okay, so we when we first started, like we started podcasting, and then I was like, yo, let's start a production company. His response was, all right, let's do this. And then I was like, oh, yo, let's start a radio station. He was like, okay, let's do this. And we did it. And we reached out to family and we were like, yo, this is what we're trying to do. I'm saying this is what we need. And we got crickets. We got nothing but crickets. But
Well,
we
I
still
didn't expect nothing but crickets. Let's, let's be, I told you, I'm a realist now. I am
but
consider myself a realist. I don't have no expectation of no one no more.
but then as soon as we started doing it and people seeing that, yo, they're serious about this, it's different now. It's like, wow, y'all really doing this. And so, like, my wife, she's one of our biggest supporters. She's always like, when she saw that I was doing this and I was serious about it, she backed me 100%. She actually helped us get funding to start the business. And so to have someone support you like that and then have him as well support me as well, that just made me want to go further and go harder because I know I have the support behind me. And at first it was like he said, when I said we got crickets, we didn't let it phase us. We was like, all right, y'all don't want to be a part of this. That's cool. We're gonna go out and still do our thing, and we're gonna build this. And when we do blow it up, we still not we're not gonna be upset about it. We still gonna be like, hey, like
We is French.
Yeah.
we.
We is French.
I won't be upset about it.
I won't be upset neither. I won't be upset, but I
won't be
will dance and glow.
But
Well, you know
it's-
what? We're all human, right?
but it's funny because I've made like the networking I've done podcasting, I've made friends that support you so much. Like this community, this podcasting community is amazing because you have people that you've probably just spoken to each other through camera and not really, especially now, not been in the same room, whatever, but yet they throw so much support behind you. We have an amazing, like, we share a lot of the same friends and they're amazing. Jeff, Tina, Stacy, everybody we communicate with are amazing people. They're positive people. They're people who are about something. And so being able to network with these people and build relationships with them has helped us stay focused and maintain that positive mindset about where even though things are going slow, we still know we're on the right path because people are still recognizing us, acknowledging us. They're seeing that we're out there doing our thing. and we might not be quote unquote successful to some people, but to us, we're ahead of where we thought we would be.
Well, I think that's huge. Growth isn't easy, right?
Realistic expectations. That's
Yeah.
just what I want to say is a key thing. Support and realistic expectations. If you don't have realistic expectations, then and no support, then the outside noise could deter you from doing whatever you're doing. But you have to have like we knew that the radio station wasn't going to go nowhere, like through the roof. The first time we launched it, we knew that. That's a process. Oh, 5 years. All right, cool. 3 years. 3 years if we work hard enough. 2 years if we work super hard. Like I'm saying, like it was not. Oh, we tried it. It didn't work in the last 6 months. Oh, we done and give up. You just have to have realistic expectations so that it don't deter you from. I mean, you're supposed to have your hands in a bunch of things. I think you should be very diverse. So and being diverse, you have to be patient. So
we need to be patient anyway, because yes, I know people love to hear these stories of quote unquote overnight success. I have this conversation because I own a consulting company. We specialize in marketing, and I have this conversation, I feel like 10 times a week with potential clients, that those stories that you read are like the business equivalent of winning the lottery. Do they happen every once in a while? Do they typically happen? No. You know, it takes a lot of work and a lot of vision and a lot of patience, as you mentioned. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, people will get afraid because it's not happening like overnight and they pull back. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand just about, you know, business ownership or, you know, creating something, right? Is that it does take time, it takes patience. And that's not for everybody. That's okay. I like that you mentioned, Wize, about kind of our podcasting community. I love using the podcast community as an example because I think, especially in the business world, like I said, in my other world that I, you know, tend to have to deal with business owners, there is so much focus on competition, right? And you have to look at competitors to say, okay, well, what do they do? And what do I need to do? What do I not? You know, you can learn from competition. But the idea of actually like being in a competition with another business, I've never got into that. And people have always thought that was so weird in my business world, but I've proven over and over and over where that works for me. And it's the same thing in the podcasting world. In the podcasting world, most podcasters seem to automatically get that. It's not a competition. It's so much of a shared vision and an instant support system. And I think that's why once you become a part of the podcasting community, you start to realize, wow, this seems so different. And the reason it seems so different is everybody has a shared vision and everybody is there to learn from each other, to help each other. And, you know, it's refreshing, honestly. I mean, I think I've learned so much just from that community and being in that community, far more than I ever thought that I would have. And, you know, I think a lot of podcasters are the same way. I mean, I got into podcasting because I thought it would, you know, help with marketing and with all the kind of, you know, all the things, right? I didn't realize that it would completely, like, it would absorb as one of my favorite things just because of the community that I get to be in.
Yeah, because I definitely was, in the beginning, Wize couldn't get me to join a group, nothing. I was like, I'm not joining this group, man. They ain't real. They ain't gonna follow us back.
It's funny. It's funny, right? Because he used to swear, I'm not a podcaster. I'm not a podcaster. I'm not a podcaster. I'm a YouTuber. So he sat down with Tim on Focus on Forward. And for some reason, when after that conversation with Tim, he came back and says, yo, I'm a podcaster.
I mean, Tim broke it down to me. And I was like, all right. I didn't look at it that way. I thought I was just a YouTuber.
It's funny. If you look at like my bio and stuff, I consider myself an accidental podcaster. I'm literally dubbed the accidental podcaster because anybody that knows me personally know I'm definitely the new project girl. I'm like super ADHD and I get an idea and I'm like, ooh, let's do that. And so I do it. So I was doing a speaking engagement. Somebody told me to start a podcast. I'm like, all right, I'll start a podcast. But I wasn't like, ooh, podcasting is my vision, my dream, my goal, my life at all. I was just doing it as another box to check. And that's what's so funny is I didn't realize how amazing that it was going to be. So I was kind of in the same boat as you, right? That I got into it to check a box, but not realizing that, wow, this is so much of what I was missing just in connection with other people. And, it's been surprising. So, I mean, I love that you kind of experienced that same thing. And I mean, big shout out to Tim for kind of like, I guess being the father of letting you know that you were a podcaster. That's great.
He birthed the podcast.
Yes, it was like that's amazing. That's great. So you have another book in the works or anything, or
Well, I'm taking it easy. The first book I put out was in 2016.
okay?
And that was also, all these was written in prison. That's how much I reflected in like all areas of my life. So the first book is more of a,
It's a working. It's got to get reworked.
it got to get
Everything. It
reworked.
has to get reworked.
I
and
put it out
re-released.
just because I just had it. Nobody believed in me. I figured out the most affordable way to stay under like $1,000 to put it out,
Mm-hmm.
own everything. And I was just like, you know what? Forget everybody. And I took the last of my money and I put the first book out. And I didn't have Facebook. I was an anti. I never really had MySpace. I didn't do social media like that. I was anti.
Oh, you're bringing it way back with MySpace.
So yeah, so it was just, I just wrote about, like, the first book is called Confessions of a Man, The Evolution of a Player. All these books can be found on Amazon. Um, the sex life. It was my sex life and the pros and cons of being a player. I believe there was a lot of, as much fun as a person could say, when you look at the situations and look how it affects the way I deal with relationships. Like to this day, I from that book, as people think I wrote it just to talk and brag, I actually was going through something to figure out like why. I always feel like I just can't be in a relationship or it's never working. And most of the time it's because I couldn't articulate anything. But and then it's got my like confessions of like why I wouldn't, how I judge women at the time, like growing up as a player. If I met you in the club, this is the way, like there was a ceiling to what I would allow. If I met you and you was already in the mix of wild girls, then there's a ceiling I literally went back and realized that like I just was, the nerve of me to be so conceited, like, to be so picky. Like when you think about it, like people look at the book and be like, oh snap, wow, you wrote a lot of, nah, this was helping me for real. Like the nerve of me to think that I could just judge a person like that was baffling. Being a player, there's some truths in there. Like these are the rules. Like you gotta judge people, and you gotta play them, or you gotta play the game or whatever the game is. And the book was just a reflection, and it was just like, wow, all that for nothing. Like all that, you could brag about it, but to who? On deaf ears. Like it was really for nothing. Like I realized that was the end result for me of the book was could have been so much smarter.
So, I mean, do you feel that just kind of talking about the book and I feel like I already know the answer to this question, but do you feel that the reason that you tended to be a player, quote unquote, was that you had trust issues? Because I feel like a lot of people I've met that kind of male and female, right, that have been players, it was really because they had so many deep-seated trust issues that they knew if they were just there to check a box again, right, to just get what they were going to get, didn't expect nothing, that they couldn't get hurt, right? There was a lot of times where we see that player, a lot of times that is a broken person that has mega trust issues. Do you feel like that was you?
I was broken. Yeah, of course I do. It would be insane to say I wasn't broken. I think it was as a child, my childhood. It was the early childhood, like very early. The part that she didn't put. I don't know if she even put this one in there because this was very detailed. So I'll keep it as anonymously as I can. There was a time in my life where there was the circumstances where me and a whole bunch of drug addict females that did things for money.
Mm-hmm.
And all I now when as I did that and look back at it, it was like that's what I that was the mark. No matter what color, there was many colors, whites, everything. This was a colorful house. It was very diverse.
Yeah.
And they all, as a child, they all did some crazy things for money. And there was kids around. So all I see is women doing crazy shit for money. Like money make women do crazy shit. Like that's the process. And then and then I get into selling drugs or being in the street, and women do crazy shit for money. So it was just understanding like, wow. Like that's what I said, this was a rock bottom. Like, and that book was the first book upon my release. Because I've been on since 2012. No trouble, just working on myself and working with my uncle, and just and sharing my stuff, like my journey. And this kid, I always thought that as when I decided to make the book, there was gonna be I did it more for parents, single mothers that got boys, raising boys in the streets. The actions, there's so many. I was never a mommy's boy because mommy was in the street. And then, so I was just a survivor. My prison started, when I say from prison to peace, like I'm comfortable now. I'm comfortable not having $1 in my pocket. I still walk tall. I still carry myself like I ain't lose a step. Like I'm free. I don't have to look over my shoulders. I ain't got to worry about it when I get pulled. I don't think negative at all. Like when I get pulled over, I'm leaving this pullover. Period. That's it. I don't have nothing. I don't know nothing. And it's just being able to just reflect on like your childhood and accept that your parents did the best they could with their hand. Their parents did the best they could with the hand they was dealt. And now it's my turn to do the best I can do with the hand I was dealt. And then all you could pray is that your kids do the best thing they can with the hand they was dealt. That is it. It's not blame nobody. It's just learn from a unfortunate circumstances. Like everybody had she played the hand, they played the hand they played, and who am I to judge that hand? You know what I'm saying? So
I do. And I think that's huge. I think that's huge what you're saying, because brokenness is contagious. And when you were telling the story about being a kid and having, women around you that were doing crazy things for money, chances are most of those women, if not all of those women, had brokenness, because if you get to a certain point where you tell yourself you don't care, right? We can convince ourselves of anything.
Yeah.
We can. And you get to the point you don't care about anything anymore. That is so much brokenness. And I think it's amazing to kind of, again, share that stuff, because brokenness is contagious, and it takes one person finally realizing that you have to stand up and start to be the cure to that. And it sounds like that's what you've done. You've stepped out, you've realized, wow, there's brokenness here. Wow, there's, things that have gone on in my life and even in my past and, with my family that, there's hurts there, there's brokenness there that we can do better and do different. And it's, again, not a blame thing, because you only know what you know, right?
You're a product of your environment, no matter
what.
At the end of the day, like
yeah,
if you grow up in the circumstances of it's just how you deal with them and being able to just. I mean, look, I'm 40.
you sound like me. I have to do the math all the time.
I'm about to be 49 in August. I'm about to be 49 in August. So and I wrote the book around 33. I started writing all those manuscripts in 30 at 33. So there's a part 2 to Confessions because that book was extremely long. And there's probably I could probably do something with whatever she didn't use in this book because that's how much it was me sharing my stuff. But I think most of that other stuff would be better if I just share it. So podcasting was like sharing my like. It's okay to be different. It's okay to struggle. It's okay. I don't care what nobody think about anything I've been through in life. So I'm not affected by anybody's thoughts. You can't even get, as long as you don't touch me, we are A-okay. I could laugh my way down the street. I don't care. And when I started the podcast, I knew that it made sense since I already wrote books to just be completely transparent. And it helps. I think that's like a little niche for me that I ain't afraid to be super transparent.
That's what I was going to ask, because I know for me and my podcasting journey, I've talked about things that literally has had my mom call me and be like, Maria, you're on iTunes. You're on iTunes, Maria. I'm like, I know, Mom. I put it on there on purpose because for me, the surprising part of being in the podcasting world was I had a platform that I could be every layer of all the things that I was, and I wasn't just this glossed over version of what society and being a business owner and all these other things that I was expected to be. I could tell all the sides of things that really made me who I was, the good, bad, and the ugly of it. And that has actually been so therapeutic. And that's what I was going to ask you, if this has been something that has helped with your continued healing, and also have you noticed that other people are more open to opening up to you?
People are definitely open to opening up, and that's what I'm saying. I know how to listen. I know how to listen now. Something that meant that the stereotype is men don't know how to listen, which is kind of true. We do what we hear what we want to hear. We don't hear what we want. Whatever. But I learned how to listen and not have to always comment. Most of the time, I don't ever want to comment. So I'm like a vent, and people just contact me and they vent, and it's okay because everybody needs that. That's for me. That's support.
Yeah.
You want to get this off your chest? Listen, I ain't doing. I'm on a computer. Listen, kick it. I put them on speaker. Me and Wize sit there and let them vent. And Wize will chime in sometimes if it's some good vent. Like if it's podcast worthy, we always try to get them to get on the podcast to share their story. But people sharing the story is kind of hard,
I think you have to be ready.
Which made me realize that the lane I'm in is for me. Like that's what made me realize the lane I'm in. Like I have my doubts. Like this ain't making us millions. It ain't making no bread. This is hard. Like you said, we working hard. It costs. It's not just, hey, we got somebody that gave us everything and we just sitting here. So, and the support is serious, and everything else is just like it's just crucial that everybody just be more mindful to other people. That's it. And if you got a second to give a person, if you got $1 to give a person, a person should feel we should make it okay to say, listen, I'm struggling.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And then that eliminates all the racism. If everybody could just be able to just look at one another and the person you say it to actually at least give 2 cents. they don't got to give a lot of sense, but just understand you and just let you get that off your chest. Like, yo, I'm struggling. And that's the support that I think I was able to accept. I didn't know how to accept it at first. I just think people was like, that's when people get it misconstrued as feeling pity. It's so easy to think somebody's pitying you instead of just being there and accepting that, like supportive. So that was like, it's so, I mean, it took years. It took a lot of years and a lot of ups and downs, but I think it's just crucial to, especially for me to still be me, still be comfortable in my own skin, still talk the way I feel like talking, still dress the way I want to dress. I have the knowledge to understand and articulate better. So now when I be like, yo, kid, go to school, I can actually tell a kid why. I can articulate to him, get him to understand. So it took years for me to get here, and now at least I know what the plans is for moving forward.
That's awesome. Before we end, I know we've been talking for a while, but before we end, can you let everybody know a little bit about the radio station, about the podcast, about the book? Like, where I know you mentioned with the books they can find it on Amazon, but that way we can, let everybody know where to find everything. And then when this drops onto the podcast, if you're listening now from your favorite podcast platform, you'll be able to find links to everything within the show notes.
Okay, Anthony Jae Gonzalez. I don't know. Amazon is real picky. I think all these analytics is crazy. So if you type in Plush Life, just understand it's exactly how it's spelled on the screen.
Yeah, so it'll be in the show notes.
Yeah,
for people that
but you can find the book on Amazon. You can find the book on iBooks, Apple Store or whatever they call it.
Okay.
Real Wize Radio. We're tightening up some loose ends, but you can find the app in Google Play, iTunes, or Apple Store, or whatever they call it.
Okay.
You can find most of our shows, because we have a few shows, on Real Wize TV on YouTube. And you definitely got to check out Stuck in My Mind podcast with El Jefe down there, who does great interviews and has a wonderful audio voice. That he still ain't do my audio book. But y'all could vote for him to do the audio book. That would help.
Add me to the vote. We'll get all my kids to vote.
Wize, take over. I'm not the best promoter.
Well, Real Wize Radio is www.realwizeradio.com. You got the production company. It's www.realwizeproductions.com. Stuck in My Mind podcast is on all major platforms. We're actually working on a new podcast that me and Anthony will be working on. And that's about it. That's what we got right now. And then we have the books, obviously on Amazon and at the Apple Store. But yeah, that's all we have. That's what we're doing right now. We got a couple other things that we're working on. And we're actually heading down to Podfest in 20 days. So we're excited about that because that'll be our first convention. And we're looking forward to the networking. We're actually going to, Jeff DeWaskin is speaking down there. So I get to speak, actually get to meet up with Jeff. Finally, like we've sat down a couple of times to do interviews, but it'll be our first time meeting in person. JB Ellis is another guy that we'll be meeting down there. It's just, like I said, this community is amazing. Like in December that just passed, we had the Indie Podcast United. We had a great time doing that. Then in March, was it March that we had the Women's of Indie Pod?
It was in March. Yeah.
In March we had the women's of Indie Pod, and that was dope. We had a great time doing that. So just being able to work with everybody that we've worked with and build the relationships that we build, it's been like a blessing and a pleasure, and we're looking forward to the next few years to where we can take this and grow.
That's awesome. Well, I've enjoyed our conversation today. I think it's been great, and I'm excited for everybody to go out and get your copy of the book. And I, again, want to go ahead and recognize that I am voting for you to be the voice of the audiobook. Let me know any formal form I need to fill out.
Yeah, I told her, man.
I'm here for it. Yeah, here for it. So if you're listening, you can, contact Anthony as well. Let him know that you also vote for Wize.
You can contact me at
that'd be great.
Poppy J 73 on Instagram.
That'd be great. See, there you go. Let him know. Just be like, Wize.
Shoot him a DM. Yeah, shoot him DM.
Yeah, that'd be great. Make it happen. So if you are watching this live, we will be back again next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another episode of Successfully Chaotic. And again, I want to say thank you to Anthony Jae Gonzalez and Wize for being my guest today. Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Be great. Thanks. Bye, everybody. See you later.
Big shout out to.
All right, got it.
It's too late now.
No, I didn't end.
I was shouting out the magnificent one because
Go ahead.
that's my girl. Shout out to the magnificent one, Stacey Price. That's my girl. I love her.
We share that girl. That sounds strange, but we do. I love Stacey. Okay, so now for real, I'm hitting the end. So, bye.